Has Richard ever walked in on you watching Real Housewives of Orange County?
No. Listen, I tried to flip it on at his house one night, and he's like, is this real TV? And I said, yes, it is. It is real TV, man.
So Kyle Pettty joining us in the Freak Nation. He's been coming in here many, many years. Good to get him back in here. He's got not only his new book that's coming out this summer, but once again, the ride that's been going on damn near longer than some people have been listening to the Freak Nation. We've been doing this for 22 years, and Kyle Pettty, there's so many things we want to talk to you about. Is there ever a time when you've been putting this Kyle Pettty motorcycle ride together going, damn it, is this going to be the last freaking year I have to do this thing?
Yes, the second year we ever did it. We were like, what in God's name are we doing? Are we doing this again? And then we did it the second, and that third year was painful. And then once we got through 3, it was like, we can do 5. And then we did 10, and then we did 15, and then we made it to 25, and then the pandemic hit. But yeah, that's been the only time. Honest to goodness, that's been the only time. I look forward to it more than anything else, more than almost any event all year long. I look forward to riding this motorcycle.
Is that for real? Because these things can be a pain in the butt. Again, this is your 26th year of doing this thing. When you look at the money and the kids that you've helped, the families you've helped, is that what keeps you going, or you just genuinely dig doing this?
All of the above. All of the above. I think when you see the kids, when we ride through Texas, or you ride through Arkansas, or you ride through Washington State, and you meet kids that have been to camp, and you meet their families, it's like, man, this is amazing. There's a camp in North Carolina that touched a child and a family, 2,500 miles away. And then you jump on that motorcycle and you think, man, it's not any better than this. The wind blowing in your face, riding, not having to talk to anybody, just doing your thing, man. You know what I mean? Just living inside your head and that kind of thing, And then you get off and you see more kids and you meet fans and you know that they're there because they want to help kids and they want to send kids to camp. So it just feeds off itself. Every part of it feeds off itself. So I don't believe there's for me, there's not one piece that stands out more than the other. It's all of them collectively.
Is this something that when you are done riding, which may still be forever from now, but whenever you are done, that you want your family to continue through the years?
Yeah. Here's what they're going to do. When I'm done, they're going to put my ashes in a Coke bottle and mount it to the front fender of a motorcycle, and I will be on every ride in a Coca-Cola bottle. That's the way it's.
Yes.
Tell people, just my ashes in a Coke bottle. That's all I care about. But I have no idea. Here's the way I look at it. We are the Kyle Pettty charity ride, and it's all like this. So the Kyle Pettty charity ride in Victory Junction, we are the largest continuous donor to camp. From the very beginning, we were there 4 or 5 years before camp ever started. We started earmarking these funds from the Kyle Pettty charity ride to go to camp. So I would hope that when I'm not here, that the camp is still here and still in need, and that somebody will slap their name on this thing. And it can be you guys, the Speed Freaks charity ride across America. I don't care. Slap a name on it. Keep doing it. But just keep the Victory Junction camp as the beneficiary.
Kenny, Statman, you guys are the motorcycle riders here. You wouldn't hate that.
No,
wouldn't hate that at all. The one thing that you said there, Kyle, came out so easy. I don't have to talk to anybody when I get that helmet on. That was from your heart. I bet you never thought when you were a racer that you would end up being one of the chief charity people in America and a broadcaster.
No. Listen, I tell people this, and I truly, truly mean this. And this is why as I watch Jeff Gordon retire, as I hear these guys talk about retirement for some of the drivers that are out there right now, when I look at my dad, and when I look at Pearson, when I look at all the guys that I've seen make it to that point, and as myself and retire, there's a sadness in my heart for them because of this. When you're a little boy or a little girl and you're out there and you dream about being a race car driver, when you dream about something, whatever that may be, but especially a race car driver, you know what you dream about? You dream about sitting in that seat, hanging onto that steering wheel, and you dream about beating Joey Logano. You dream about beating Kyle Larson. I dreamed about beating Richard Petty and David Pearson. Kids came along and dreamed about beating Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. You don't dream about doing your show. I'm sorry, I love your show, but you don't dream about this. You don't dream about doing commercials. You don't dream about doing commercials. You don't dream about signing autographs. You don't dream about photo sessions. You don't dream about that. You dream about doing the deed, driving the race car, racing and winning. That's your dream. And in the end, that's the only piece you can't do. When you retire, that's the only piece you can't do. You can still continue to do everything. So, that solitude of being inside a helmet and being on a motorcycle has always been a special place for me to be.
I can imagine that, because when I used to ride, that would be the one place I had to be careful, because some squirrel guts can take you out when you're riding on a motorcycle. But you've got to pay attention. But it is awful nice to be quiet and nobody's talking to you. And it's almost as nice as getting lost in that guitar behind you on the wall. I'll bet you can get lost in that real easy.
Yeah, and that's why that's the two things are, guitars and motorcycles, because there is a piece in that, and there is a piece in that, and I've said it before. I've been very, very blessed in so many ways in my life, but at the same time, there's been tragedy, and there's been loss, and these guitars behind me and those motorcycles got me through a lot of that. A lot of those times when you just needed to be by yourself, but you also wanted a friend. You just didn't want a friend that said anything you didn't want them to say. And a motorcycle never says that, and a guitar never says that. They tell you what you want to hear. So for me, those are two of the best friends I've ever had, and have gotten me through some dark times and have gotten me through some happy times too.
Hey, Freak Nation, our buds at General Tire want to give you $70 back on a Visa prepaid card. How do you get it? Well, you buy 4 qualifying passenger tires from General Tire, up to $70 back. We're not talking these high performance bad boys you see in the ARCA series. Passenger tires. You follow me? For more information, go to GeneralTire.com. GeneralTire.com. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. And of course, the official tire of the Freak Nation. Kyle Pettty joining us here in the Freak Nation. And Kyle, for those that aren't able to participate in your charity ride, where should they go? How can they contribute to the 26th annual Kyle Pettty charity ride?
Yeah, go to KylePettyCharityRide.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and any other new social platforms that may come up between now and the end of the year. It seems like there's a different one every day. I mean, it's fascinating to me. But it's going to tell, we're going from Phoenix to Lake Havasu up to Flagstaff. Then we're going up to the Grand Canyon and around to Bryce Canyon, spend a couple of days at Bryce Canyon, going to Monument Valley, one of my most favorite places in the whole world, back down to Sedona and then back down to Phoenix. So it'll chart. You'll be able to see where we're going to be stopping, where we're going to be having lunch. My dad will be with us. Harry Gann will be with us. Kenny Strader's going to be with us. Rick Allen's going to be with us. Just a few different celebrities. So if you want to see Richard Petty, if you want to see Harry Gant, come out and get an autograph and have a barbecue sandwich and talk racing or talk whatever you want to. That will be on the website and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It'll show you where we're at. So we want fans to come out.
I would imagine if you're going through Lake Havasu that Tony Stewart, Leah Pruitt may join.
You know what? Tony rode motorcycles with us one year. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, Tony Stewart, he's with us. And then that's the last time I think he ever saw a motorcycle. Once we rode across country, he was like, that's not for me, man. But I talked to Tony at the Hall of Fame, at the banquet. And he said, please call me and let me know. And I'll make sure that I'm around somewhere. So hopefully he'll come out. And they'll come out and say hello, or at least wave at us, or throw something at us from the side of the road, whichever way. As long as our people get to say hello, that'll be cool.
We'll get you back to the interview in just a little bit. Have you heard about Lucas Brake Parts Cleaner?
Lucas Brake Parts Cleaner is made of the highest quality components, giving you superior performance and leaving no residue. How do you apply this? You apply Lucas Brake Parts Cleaner liberally to the parts that need to be cleaned. You'll eliminate brake fluid, grease, dust, and dirt components. We know a little bit about that here in the desert, I'd say. And basically what that does is that makes you a happy driver, because now your brake noise is gone and your performance has gone up. Boom. All right, let's get back to the interview now.
Kyle Pettty joining us here in the Freak Nation. Of course, the 26th annual Kyle Pettty charity ride going off. Then, of course, there's the new book from.
Oh,
Yeah, what? What kind of grunt was that, Kyle?
that's the book.
Yeah.
There it is.
Now-
It is. For the first time, you're seeing a real one. And look, it's got words. It's got words in it. Fascinating.
Nothing's crossed out.
Nothing.
Well, since we didn't get it, we didn't get an advanced copy, so we got to kind of.
I need to send you guys 3.
Yes.
I'll make sure you get them. I'll make sure you
Okay.
get them. Seriously.
Well, there's enough notes out there for that I can just dive into all kinds of questions. First of all, swerve or die. What's the biggest swerve that you've had to not die in your life, Kyle Pettty?
Yeah. Okay. So let me explain the title.
Okay.
Because I struggled with the title as we came up because of Adam and because of a lot of different reasons. But I think what it means, and to me, and this gets into NASCAR in the book a little bit too, is this sport, and to be a part of this sport, you got to be able to change directions in an instant to survive. Whether it be a different ride, whether it be a different sponsor, whether it be another team, whatever that may be. I think the sport has been in a few places in the past 15 or 20 years where they had to make major decisions. And the car that we're racing right now is one of those swerves. The car that we're racing right now that we're seeing is a swerve for NASCAR. If they had stayed that old course, would they have died? I don't know. But chances are, if you don't keep moving, that's what happens to you. So I think that's what the title means more than anything else. And I laugh about it because I think my biggest swerve for me and my whole career was leaving Felix. I probably should have stayed with Felix, but I felt like I needed to start a team for Adam, and that's in the book. So that's a little bit of it, but that was a big moment for me to make that decision.
You're right. There have been so many swerve moments in NASCAR, in all of motorsports, to be honest, over the last couple of decades. Do you think, due to the pandemic and due to the way things kind of unraveled or maybe raveled differently, that the biggest swerves have happened in these last couple of years in NASCAR and that they've handled them pretty damn well?
Yeah, I think a lot of them have. But I think the one advantage that you've had over the last couple of years is, and it's not, and when I say advantage, I mean advantage for this sport, is that when the world shut down, then this sport was in a pretty good place and had a pretty good system to continue to move forward. We were one of the first professional sports back to be able to go to the racetrack, to see these cars. Listen, when you're inside a 36 or 3,700 pound stock car, whatever these things weigh now, running 200 miles an hour, that's social distance at its best right there. Okay. You are socially distanced. So, our guys could go and run. So that was good. So I think they made decisions that helped the sport. They made decisions that outside and other sports leagues looked at and said, maybe we should try it that way. Maybe we should do something like that. So I think there were a lot of opportunities, and the leadership in NASCAR over the last 5 or 6 years has really have made tough decisions. Not all of them are right. Not all of them are right. Sometimes but you know what? If you don't make a decision, you do die. And at least they were willing to make a decision and put their neck out there, and I applaud them for that.
Kyle Pettty, you've been coming into Freak Nation a long time. When you started coming in here, the ponytail was a little longer and the beard wasn't gray. But you've seen the change. You've talked about these changes and swerving. And I think in some of the reviews that I read earlier today, there's some that you're talking around the issue of changing in NASCAR to make provisions for new people to come into the grandstands and buy tickets. Yes. The changes that you're talking about, Are you seeing the positive effect of those changes?
Oh,
Because you've been around before and after the swerve.
yeah, I definitely so. I think as we look at it, as you look at the sport, and listen, I felt like NASCAR when they announced they were going to the LA Coliseum. Uh, Listen, it sucked the breath out of the Southeast United States. They were like, "What in God's name are these crazy people doing now in NASCAR?" And I think when you look at the LA Coliseum, you look at the event, and that's what that was. That's what the shootout, that's what the clash, that's what it's always event. That's what the all-star race is. It's an event. It's not necessarily the race, it's an event. But when you look at that and you look at the families and the grandstands, you look at the ethnic groups, you look at blacks, you look at Hispanics, you look at Asian, you look at the populations that we brought to the sport. And that's the misnomer. We didn't bring them to the sport. We took the sport to them. We took the sport to LA where they were. They weren't going to come to Southern California. Sorry, they just don't. You can call that the Hollywood market all you want to. It's Southern California. Might as well be San Diego. It's as close to San Diego as it is to LA. So and Hollywood. So they took the sport and they went there. And you know what? Some of those people that went to the LA Coliseum did come south to the Speedway there in Fontana, did show up for that race. And that's where they saw a NASCAR race, and a pretty dang good NASCAR race, I will say, for the race they had in California. So I think when you look at it, we took the sport to them. If the sport won't come to you, or if the fans won't come to you, take your sport to the fans. And I think that's what it's done. I think Daniel Suarez has done a tremendous amount for this sport. And Pitbull, being an owner on that team, has done a tremendous amount for that. Daniel's Amigos, man, it's like every week there's more and more. Coca-Cola brings more and more kids to the racetrack. And that's been special. We look at Bubba Wallace. You look at what Michael Jordan and Denny, you look at that, what they've done at this level. And you look at the mix of drivers. I think you drop down and you look at the truck series, you look at the Xfinity series. I'm sorry, they're not all Southern white guys anymore. If that's what you're looking for, you're looking at the wrong sport.
I'm interrupting here on purpose because I don't want to get too far from one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard anybody say in connection with NASCAR. You said it about 10, 12 years ago when you said we don't have to worry about people not buying seats. But if they go home and they don't watch us on free TV, that's a problem. And I think NASCAR found that out, and they found out that we do have to take it to the Coliseum. We do have to put Ice Cube in front of people.
Yes.
We do have to put Pitbull there because that's what's going to get the change. And slowly but surely, people are coming to the track without the Confederate flag, without all the white guys, and lo and behold, the sport is surviving.
Yeah, and that is, and you, in a nutshell, there you said the sport is surviving. So many people thought that's going to kill the sport. That's going to kill the sport. If we let anybody else in the sport, it's going to kill the sport. It's going to run off those hardcore fans. It's going to run these people away, and they're going to run away screaming with their rebel flags and everything else, and they're not coming back. And you know what? They just put their flag in a drawer, and they still come back. They come back to see Kevin Harvick. They come back to see Kurt Busch. They come back to see Kyle Larson. They come back to see those guys. And at the same time, guess what? We've been exposed to another group of fans who on Sunday afternoons now, when they're flipping that TV channel and they're flipping through everything they're watching, they may stop there maybe for 30 minutes, maybe for 40 minutes. Maybe it's at the beginning, maybe it's at the end, but they stop there. It's not a drive-by channel anymore.
And those stories are in the book. Those stories are in the book.
I hope some of them are. And listen, and if they ban me from and never let me come back, you'll know those stories are in the book. Okay. Because you know me, I've got opinions on everything.
That's why we love you. Yes, it's awesome.
Hey, I'm Kyle Busch. The biggest racing weekend ever at Worldwide Technology Raceway is coming June 3rd through the 5th. The party starts Thursday with the NASCAR Fan Fest and Hauler Parade at Ballpark Village. Cup practice and truck qualifying on Friday, Cup qualifying and the Toyota 200 on Saturday, and it all wraps up on Sunday with the Enjoy Illinois 300. This is the first time in a lifetime to see the NASCAR Cup Series at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Go to worldwidetechnologyraceway.com to get your tickets now. Brought to you in part by the Illinois Office of Tourism and Illinois South Tourism.
And that's why I was concerned about this book, because you've never been one to toe the line for the most part.
Yeah.
You say what you want to say, Kyle. What is something in this book that you talk about that either will surprise us or to be, you know what, that's Kyle Pettty. Just, he doesn't care where his bread's buttered.
Listen, I don't think anything's going to surprise anybody. Listen, here's my problem. If it's here, it comes out here, and it just goes. Okay, I don't keep any secrets. I don't keep anything back. But yeah, I think the thing is, I think the thing for me, and when I look at this book, and I went through it, and it's not. Listen, this is not Kyle Pettty criticizing a sport that I love more than anything in this whole world. This sport has been so good to me, and it's not about that. It's about how I grew up in the sport. It's about losing an uncle in the sport, losing a son in the sport. It's about taking those things and turning them into positives. And then it's about where I think the future of the sport is, and what the sport should be, or where the sport's headed. We're sitting here in 2022, and GM and all these guys have already said, hey, we're going to be fully electric by 35. Somebody better be thinking there's going to be some electric race cars out there. And if you don't think that, if you don't think that NASCAR and these people aren't going to go in that direction, then you know what? Don't let the door hit you in the behind when you walk your way out. Because I'm going to tell you, because the thing is, it's coming, dude. It's coming. And it's already been set out of Detroit. It's already, they're telling us, the manufacturers that are putting the money in the sport are already saying these changes are coming. How do we prepare for those changes? How do we prepare for the electric revolution? How do we prepare for the green revolution in a sport that is absolutely about burning rubber and burning fossil fuels and running around in circles and going absolutely nowhere? You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, and I'm like, I am very blessed. I made a living starting at a white line, running 500 miles and ending at the same white line. And people laugh like y'all. And I'm like, y'all can laugh all you want to, but y'all bought tickets and watched me do it. So it doesn't make any difference. You know what I mean? That's the funny part about it. So I think the sport has to think about its impact on society and on the world, but I think it has to fit in somehow. Fit in. We can't keep going against the grain. You got to fit in at some point in time. So those are issues that are on the horizon for this sport. And listen, the horizon is there. 10 or 15 years in motorsports goes by in the blink of an eye. So it's already here. And I think other forms are looking at it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see trucks and Xfinity and those guys dipping their toe into it a little bit before the Cup level does.
I would love that. One thing I think we've learned also through social media and everybody being cooped up at home over the last couple of years is, there's a lot of negativity out there, but my God, people, learn to channel it and focus on the positive stuff that can come out of it. This is going to be a journey that's going to be fun to see how NASCAR tackles. They tackled COVID better than any other sport out there in the world. How are they going to tackle this electrifying of their actual sport? It's going to be fun to watch, and I wish more people would just kind of think along those lines.
Yeah, listen. Let's go back. Let's look at the sport right now, and we look at this car. But the last 10 races, counting if we go back to last year, and that's Kyle Larson. We have to go back to Kyle Larson. But if we look at this year and the last 6 races of last year, every race so far has been won by somebody under 30 years of age. Under 30 years of age. If that's not a paradigm shift, if that's not a shift in who our superstars are and who our superstars are going to be in the next 10 years, as we get closer to that, then I don't know. That it's that redneck comedy tour. Here's your sign. There it is. You know what I mean? That part's changing. This car, if you don't look at this car with rack and pinion, independent rear suspension, sequential shifts, backup cameras so that you can see who's behind you, so they've got cameras. if you don't look at that and think this is not the car of today and the car of the future, and that electric is not the car of the future, then I don't know. Here's your sign again. You know, I mean, all the indicators are pointing to a massive shift in motorsports in general, not just cup racing, but in motorsports in general. So I think we have to look at that, and you have to look. You know, we talk about, you look at golf, and I go back to when my grandfather played golf 1,000 years ago, and when you tuned in on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, and they played with persimmon-headed drivers. You know what I mean? And now the technology in a golf club, is greater today than what it was in a stock car in 1972. You know what I mean? I mean, when you look at the metallurgy, when you look at the titanium and everything that they put into them and how they can adjust a golf club. So I think the sport is changing just like any other sport, but it is this year was a huge catch up.
Kyle Pettty here in the Freak Nation, and you talk about golf, and when the Big Bertha came on the scene, there were 50 and older, 50 plus golfers age-wise said, I'm never going to. I can only imagine that you had conversations like that with your dad from time to time when he said, no, I'm never going to drive. They're never going to. Listen, Richard, settle down. Have you had, what's a conversation? What's one thing you said, Dad, it's going to happen, you son of a bitch?
Okay, so here's the thing. When he said, and here's what he said, honestly, when he saw this car for the first time, and we talked about it, he said, this is just not NASCAR. You know, this is just not, this is something totally different. This is not anything that I could ever imagine. This is not anything that I could ever fathom. Single lug nuts. Oh my gosh. That was on a 52 MG with a hammer. They were knockoffs. You know what I mean?
No truck arms.
Yeah. You know, and you've got that. When they went to fuel injection, a lot of these guys lost their mind. But you look at it, and he was like, you know, this car doesn't even work suspension wise the way those old cars worked. And I said, yeah, I hear you 1,000%. I hear you 1,000%. But given the opportunity to drive your final year in 1992, would you have gotten back in a 1958 Oldsmobile like you started your career in? And he was like, no, there's no way, man. And I'm like, there's my point. My point is, you sat there from 58 to 92 and you experienced the evolution. You were part of it. You drove the bus. You helped move the ball forward. Now you're just a passenger on this bus. Somebody else is doing it, but you see it, but you can't fathom it because you got off the bus in 92. And technology and seat technology and safety technology has continued to change. I'm not going back to a 64 Impala with a lap belt. Just not going to happen. Not going to put my kids in that situation. No airbags, all that stuff. I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm going to drive the safest car I can drive on the highway. And I would hope these guys in this day and time drive the most advanced race cars that they can drive to put on the best show they can on the speedways.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
That pretty much sums it up right there.
Yep.
That's amazing. Yep.
And Kyle, I'm curious your take on this. When COVID did hit, Bubba Wallace, the racial differences, all of that came about. You've been one of those guys that have raised your hand on that for a long time. The acknowledgement of we got to be better as a motorsports community. Where do you see it now? How far have we come along, in your point of view, from a racial welcoming standpoint, specifically in NASCAR?
So here's what I say to that. I think from where we started, just a handful of years ago, wow. From where the sport has tried to move with their diversity platforms, diversity driver training, Eric Almirola, Kyle Larson, those guys were part of that diversity program. I think we have made great strides in the few years. The problem is we're only about 65 years behind in starting. And there's your issue. Okay, there's your issue. We can pat ourselves on the back and say, woo, good job, guys, man. Look what we've done. You know, And then you look over your shoulder and you're like, yeah, but we should have started like 65 years ago. We should have started in 64 with Wendell Scott. We should have gave him a trophy when he won a race. You know why? Because red or yellow, black and white, I don't care. When you're the best that day, you get the trophy, you kiss the queen, and you get the check. That's the way it works. I don't care what you drive or what you're doing. And I think you have to go back, and you can't go back and rewrite history. You can't go back and correct history. But you have to acknowledge it to move forward. And for so long, I don't believe we acknowledged a lot of it. With acknowledgement comes responsibility. And with responsibility becomes that opportunity to lead. And I think that's where we're at. We're in that stage right now of accepting some of the responsibility. And we've got to accept more. But we have to start to lead. And we have to start to lead in the motorsports arena. Okay, in the motorsports arena. And I think if NASCAR wants to continue to be what I consider one of the greatest forms of racing on the face of the earth, up there with Formula One and with IndyCar and drag racing and sprint car and midgets and local short track racing, if you're going to be a leader, you have to lead by example. And I think they have an opportunity. And I think we have an opportunity, but I think we have a responsibility too. And that's where I said before, I think that's where Bubba and Michael and Pitbull and Daniel Suarez and so many other guys that are in the pipeline to have that to get an opportunity at it, that will begin to change. But it is, as fast as the speeds are on the racetrack, change in the garage area comes slow. Change in the grandstand sometimes comes slow, but we have to be patient.
As much as I don't want to defend any particular sport over another, but I hear what you're saying about, NASCAR needs to take some responsibility and acknowledge the past and help to further push change. But wasn't that kind of a slice of Americana? I mean, America needs to take responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
NASCAR was just kind of along for that ride. And looking back now, it's like, okay, we should have done more, but America should have done more.
Yeah. And listen, but I will say this, okay? I don't believe that I think as now we're in your now this just went from from Speed Freaks to a political show. So
right. Okay, no. Yeah, no.
So here's what I'm going to say to that. Here's what I'm going to say. I think all sports, whether it be baseball, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, whether it be lacrosse or field hockey, I don't care. I think all sports we used to have this stupid saying, man. I don't care if the guy's sitting in the third row of the bleachers. If he's got an idea that can make me go faster, he's my man. He's my man, because that's what this sport is all about: going fast and winning. And it has nothing to do with sex, sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with one thing: putting that car in victory lane. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you've got to put on blinders and you've got to look at it. And if you're a true fan of the sport, you put on those blinders and that's how you see it. America has not put on those blinders. And listen, it's learned. It's not, I don't think it's in your DNA. I think it's learned, and we've got to teach different. That's just the way it is. But I think so many people watch sports. Sports can be that teacher. Sports can show that we can get along, that we can work together, that we can be better. And I think all sports have that responsibility. Other than that, sports are mainly for entertainment, people. That's what it's all about. So don't get into a fight because your favorite guy didn't do this or that. It's about entertainment in the end.
Kyle Pettty for president, baby.
Oh, hell. Oh, hell. Kyle, there was a time in early 2000s when I think we were just on 4 or 5 stations at the time, and we get this call from some hillbilly in Podunk, Illinois, wherever the hell it was, and he was bitching and moaning about Toyota coming. What Toyota coming into the sport? And then one of us, I don't know who it was, said, "You got a lawnmower?" I go, "What kind of engine does it have?" He goes, "A Honda."
Yeah.
And he just went, "Oh yeah." I mean, that's how far we've come, Kyle.
Yeah. Listen, I don't. It was. I grew up in the sport when you had all the nameplates. And what I mean by that is you had Buick and Oldsmobile, you had Plymouth, you had Dodge, you had Mercury, you had Ford. That was, so there were 6, 7 different manufacturers. Now they were all Ford, GM, and Chevy. What I mean, or Ford, GM, and Chrysler when you looked at it. But at the same time, it appeared to be something bigger than what it was. Watching Chevys and Ford race all those years, just back and forth, that wasn't very exciting for me. You know what I mean? That took a piece of the sport away from me because I had grown up when there were different nameplates. When Dodge came back, really excited. When Toyota came in, really excited. Listen, there's no reason why Kia can't come into this sport. There's no reason why Honda can't come into this sport. Mm-hmm. There's no barrier, especially with this car. As we look at this car is that entree for other manufacturers to come in. Does it make it any less an American sport? No, it doesn't make it any less. Listen, there is nothing more redneck American than, getting your freak on a Saturday night in a dirt field with 4 or 5 cars running in circles. And that's where it started, man. That's where stock car racing started. There's nothing wrong with that, and that the origins of what this sport are. You're never going to take that piece of the history away from it. But it's okay, man. If you want to run a Lamborghini against these guys, bring it, dude. Let's see what it'll do. I mean, I don't. That mentality is an ancient mentality that eventually will weed itself out.
I want to see Lambo doors in NASCAR.
Yeah. Listen, we saw the Lambo door when Michael Waltrip. Did he win at Talladega or wreck at Talladega? And he had to come out through the roof. That was that was the Lambo door.
Yeah.
Before we get to the last part of this is a pet peeve of mine. Shouldn't the cars look like the cars, and so that they all don't fit the same template? We've got different undercarriage and transmission and all of that. Shouldn't, like the supercars in Australia, shouldn't they look more like the showroom cars?
Well, that's a great argument for the 1964 Impala again. It's 2022. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. It's 2022, and I ride down the road. Now, this is no joke. Okay, and I ride down the road, and sometimes I'll pass the Audi makes A7. I don't know what that car is or whatever. And then Honda makes a car, and Nissan makes a car, and Volkswagen. And I'm telling you, if I catch them at the right angle, they all look exactly the same. 4 different manufacturers, and they all look the same. So as I look at the street cars, I can't tell the difference between one manufacturer and another on a street car. So why do my race cars have to look different? Why do my race cars have to be different? I watch Indy cars run. I watch Formula One cars run. They all look pretty dang close to the same. I watch funny cars run. They all look pretty close to the same. Watch pro stocks run. They all look pretty close to the same. There's those subtleties and those variances. And I think what we've gotten to in a sport, until we go back to racing showroom stock cars, then that horse and that argument has already left the barn. You know what I mean? The only way to differentiate the Chevy from the Ford, from the Camry, or from the Toyota are those logos. The blue oval, the bow tie, the Toyota logo. That's it. Because you're not going to see it any other way. And I don't think that takes away from the sport one way or the other, because we live in a time now where, the guy that lived to be 92 and only bought Fords, or the guy that lived to be 115 and only bought Plymouths, he's not around anymore. You know what I mean? People buy what's going to get them good fuel mileage, especially a $7 fuel right now. Whatever gets them good fuel mileage, and people buy what they think they're going to get the most value for. So it's a different time.
Wow. Kyle Pettty, is Drive to Survive one of your favorite shows of all time now on Netflix?
You know what? I don't know. Listen, I have a tough time going to Netflix because I have a tough time getting off Bravo, because the Real Housewives of Salt Lake, Jersey, Atlanta, Orange County. My gosh, man, it's a marathon at my house. That is real TV. Okay, that is TV That's TV. I want when I watch anything on TV. Here's what I want to do. Honest to goodness, I don't want my hands to sweat. I don't want my shirt to get wet under my arms where I'm so intense and I'm just a nervous wreck. I want to sit down in front of the TV. I want to take my hat off. I want to take my brain out, and I want to set it right here beside of me. Something mindless and entertaining, and that's what the Real Housewives do for me. That's what they do.
Love it.
Okay, so that's the extent of my watching right there.
And a lot of laughing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh. It is fascinating. The only shows better than the weekly shows are the reunion when they actually have to sit in the same place and scream at each other.
Has Richard ever walked in on you watching Real Housewives of Orange County?
No. Listen, I tried to flip it on at his house one night, and he's like, is this real TV? And I said, yes, it is. It is real TV, man. Listen, it still, and I will say, still the greatest reality show ever made, and they will never top it, never, ever, is Cops. And they're just not going to top it. I mean, it was so far ahead of its time. I mean, when you roll up on a truck, on an 18-wheeler, okay, and and they pull him over at a weigh station, and the guy gets out, and he's got on a garter and high heel shoes, and he's driving his 18-wheeler down the road. That's reality TV right there. That is reality TV.
Isn't that the infield at Talladega?
We could only hope the infield would come back that good at Talladega. We can only hope for that.
Kyle Pettty, always greatness here in the Freak Nation. For more information about how you can help out the Victory Junction game and, of course, be a part of this big old thing called the Ride Across America, the Kyle Pettty Ride Across America, the 26th anniversary of. Again, Kyle Pettty, remind people where they should go to get more information.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and or go to KylePettyCharityRide.com to find out more about it. And thank you guys. And remember, this is the book. Book. Pre-sale, pre-order, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. There's some autographed editions out there floating around. There'll be more. Here it is, Swerve or Die.
Hey, Dale Earnhardt Jr. put us in his very first book. Damn it. Why didn't you put the freaks in your book, Kyle Pettty? Come on, we're all freaks, brother.
Yeah, but who bought that book? Nobody did. I mean, let's be honest.
Good point.
That's a hell of a way to end this thing.
Perfect.
Oh, boy. KP, thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.